Alright guys, we're going to look at drawing the mouth. Remember the proportions on the mouth is you have your line going down halfway through your face vertically, you have your line going halfway horizontally, and then from your eye line to your chin you have your line going horizontally halfway through, which is your nose line, and then halfway from there to your chin you have another line, which that represents where the bottom of your mouth would go. So your mouth line would start at your nose line and go all the way down to your mouth line, to the bottom of that line. Okay, so make sure you get your proportions right. Another thing to check for is your mouth should end about in the middle of where your eye is. Let's look at the anatomy of the mouth. Once again, there's a lot more details than just having an upper lip and a lower lip.
Hello and welcome to Proko. My name is Stan Prokopenko. Today we're learning about the lips. Lips are very expressive. There are many muscles working together to pull on the various parts of the lips. Also, it's the only feature that involves bone movement. Let's start by talking about the basic forms. The tooth cylinder that fits right between the nose and chin can be simplified into a bloated tuna can. By bloated, I just mean that the wall of the cylinder curves out rather than being flat. This comes into play when looking at the lips from an angle other than straight on. The bloated tuna can affects the surface forms of the lips. The center line of the lips gets pushed outward, and when viewed from the top or bottom, the lips wrap around the cylinder. Notice that from this angle, the corners of the lips are actually lower than the bottom of the bottom lip. Try to avoid drawing the lips as if they are on a flat plane. The major planes. The major planes of the lips are very simple. They are very much like a staircase of 3 steps from the chin to the base of the nose. In fact, if you look at the head from profile, the entire front of the face is like a staircase. The major planes alternate from top plane to bottom plane. When drawing from a front view, this staircase is usually indicated by alternating dark and light shapes. Dark light, dark light, dark light, dark light. Now let's go over a little bit of anatomy. I'll probably go into more depth on the anatomy in a future series. I plan on covering facial expressions, and the anatomy is important to understand for that. For now, let's just take a little peek. The red portion of the lips, and the part directly above and below, is called the orbicularis oris. It originates at the corners of the lips called the nodes. These nodes are visible as bumps since so many muscles meet and overlap here. In this simplified diagram, you can see that there are a lot of muscles that attach around the orbicularis oris and pull on it to form various expressions. The orbicularis oris can also tighten to form an O, or to blow a kiss. The lips attach to the tooth cylinder at the base of the nose and the top of the chin. Moving on to the minor forms. The top lip has 3 forms and the bottom lip has 2. Think of these forms as squishy little pillows. The rounded form in the middle of the top lip, called a tubercle, is shaped like a heart and wedges between the 2 forms of the bottom lip. When looking at the lips from an angle, these forms overlap each other, adding depth. When drawing a foreshortened object, I always look for overlapping lines to show a form is in front of another. Overlapping forms are indicated by T intersections. The lower left overlaps the tubercle overlaps the lower right overlaps the top right, and the top right overlaps the far corner. The local value of the red portion is different from the local value of the skin. The relationship depends on the race of the person. With darker skin, the lip could be lighter, and with lighter skin, the lip could be darker. If the person is wearing lipstick, that would change the local value of the lips. Because the lips have a bit of moisture, the highlight will appear brighter and sharper than the highlights on the skin, unless of course the skin is also wet. When shading the lips, pay attention to the minor plane changes of both the top lip and bottom lip. The darkest tones will usually be around the crease, corners, and core shadows at the top of the top lip and bottom of the bottom lip. This upper region of the lips usually has a gradation, revealing the rounded tuna can-shaped tooth cylinder underneath. In the middle of the upper lip region is the philtrum. It's a concave depression composed of two planes. The darker plane of the philtrum will be on the opposite side of the dark on the overall upper region. The edge of the upper lip has a small ridge, or a top plane that sometimes catches light. I try to play down this effect to avoid drawing a white outline. This could look like a milk mustache. The ridge that borders the bottom lip is steep in the middle and softer on the outsides. The lower lip region has two pillars that angle inward towards the top. Together, these two pillars form an arch under the bottom lip, which is often in shadow since it faces downward. At the corners of the lips, there are bumps where many of the muscles connect. The volume of the nodes is similar to a bean. When shading, make sure to think of it as a rounded form that pinches inward. The roundness of the bean creates a soft edge at the outside and top. The pinch creates a sharp edge at the inside and bottom. Hey, if you like this video, your friends might too. Please help me out and share.
So now we're going to simplify again and look at it in shapes. And I just have a few pictures for you just to look at. And you can go back, you can pause these, you can move ahead. If you feel like there's one that you like, you can pause it and draw from that. So breaking it down and trying to see the shapes that make up the mouth will really help you put it all together. Adding value to complete your mouth, that's going to be another step that's going to help you make it look more realistic. So on the top lip, your lines should kind of curve and curl together. And on the bottom lip, they start in the middle and they kind of curl down. It's good to practice at different angles too, or to even practice drawing teeth. Teeth are often one of the hardest parts about drawing the mouth.
Hey, Stan Prokopenko here. Welcome to another episode of Proko. You should watch my previous video in which I cover some anatomy and structure of the lips. If you want to look at the reference photo while you watch me draw, just find this post on proko.com and it's just below the video. The lay-in. With lips, I start my lay-ins with the landmarks. Find the width and angle of the lips by indicating the corners. Since she's looking slightly away from us to the left, the center line will curve out and to the left. This will help me find the placement of the top of the tubercle and bottom of the bottom lip. With the landmarks in place, let's think about those squishy little pillows. Remember how in the last video I said that there are 3 at the top and 2 at the bottom? On her, the tubercle is flat and you can barely see it. This is actually quite common. The tubercle is just a fatty tissue, so its prominence will vary. The wings on the side of her lips are very round and easy to see. The 2 pads on the lower lip are very subtle and kind of hard to see. 2 values. When I start shading a drawing, I like to first determine the angle from which the light source is coming from. This will help me visualize what values to make each plane. If the plane is facing the light, it will be lighter. If it's facing away, it will be darker, and everything in between. To figure out the direction of the light source, I mainly just look at 2 things. First, the cast shadows. The bottom lip is casting a shadow on the left side of the chin, so I know the light source is at the top right. But it's not too far to the right, it's very close to center. The other indication of the direction of the light source is the highlight. It's on the right side of the lip towards the top, same as the light source. So all the planes that are facing down and to the left are in shadow. Now notice how there is actually a second light source coming directly from the left. This secondary light source isn't as bright as the main light source, and for now I'm going to ignore it. Most of the volume is defined by the main light source, so I'll focus on that first. The sides of the top lip face down and are in shadow, but as we get closer to the middle, her top lip gets very round and the top portion actually points up at the light source. So the core shadow in this case is towards the bottom in the middle and along the top ridge on the sides. Going full value with dark accents. The darkest accents on the lips will almost always be in the corners, along the crease, core shadows, and just under the bottom of the bottom lip. When defining the crease, make sure to think about the overlapping forms and vary your line weight so it doesn't just look like an outline. Halftones and highlights. The top lip, even though it curves and points up, doesn't curve enough to point directly at the light source, like the bottom lip. So the entire lit area of the top lip will be a darker value halftone, with gradations to define the roundness of the squishy little pillows. Add some gradations to define the bottom lip. I want the highlight to be bright and sharp, so I need to make sure the halftones around it are dark enough to make the highlight stand out. Once you start making your halftones dark, double check to make sure that the shadows are significantly darker, so that the halftones don't start looking like shadows. The corners of the lips have a slight gradation, but the bean shape of the nodes is not very prominent on her. I'll define the plane changes of the region above the top lip. I'm going to take out the cast shadow from the nose. I feel like it would look strange there without a nose casting it, and instead I'll define the planes of the philtrum. The area under the lips will be mostly halftone since these planes face down. Now I'll add that secondary light source and make sure it stays in a supporting role and doesn't become the main character. Finally, let's clean up some edges and shapes. I'll go through the drawing one more time and do some cleanup work to define things a little better. Alright, so I'm going to be giving this drawing away. If you'd like.
Let's look at some more examples. You can find more examples on my Pinterest link.